Okay, we're here in Fusion 360 today. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm just going to start with some very simple basics. We're going to get into sketching and how that works, some of the tools we use to sketch in, some of the frustrations I've found while sketching, and then we'll move into some things like the extrude features and the revolve features. So the first thing when you create a sketch, you're in a 3D space here. You've got your X, Y, and Z coordinate system in the top right hand corner. You can select any surface or plane to create a sketch on. So we've got 3 planes here. And we are going to take a top down view. That seems to be the best view when you're drawing anything that's going to be cut on a 2D plasma cutter or any kind of flat work. You always want to start here no matter what. If you're not going to be using machine shop cam softwares and you're going to use Fusion 360 to plasma cut, or you're going to use it for any kind of 2D work, maybe laser, even torch cuts, always start with the top down view or it will be very complicated for you. Another thing is we always want to check our document settings and make sure we're working in the units we want to be working in. We're in America, we're going to work on the inch system currently. So we've got our first sketch here. We're going to start our sketch. So the first thing you've got here is you can move this line any direction you'd like. I can start this point anywhere I want. I could have started it over here. With this line, you are going to be limited in a flat 2D surface while we are drawing in this sketch, unless we turn on 3D sketch over here. But we're not going to work with 3D sketch. We're going to work with 2D sketches only currently. Okay, so we can click and it will select any value, and we can kind of see the inches up in the top, and you can kind of see the degrees in the second hand box. We can click, or we can manually input whatever we'd like. So right now we're just making a square box. Some of these I'm going to line up with the snap tools. Okay. So now we have a square box in 2D. The box is black, which means it is anchored to the origin point. So if I try to move this cube away from the origin point, it's not going to let me until I am broken away from this origin point. It's anchored. So let's get into how to 2D sketch on a 3D surface. So I have a 2D box here. I'm just going to finish my sketch here. Before we move on, in order to keep things very organized over here under sketches, we want to make sure that we are renaming our sketches each time to whatever we have sketched, or at least a reference. Because if we don't do that, we're going to end up with hundreds of sketches and a lot of confusion. So we're just going to call this box 1. So now I'm going to extrude that item into a cube. So now that we have a cube, say that we want a square on this surface here. How do we do that? So we go back to our create sketch, and if you see, it gives us a palette on every surface that we highlight. So we can actually just click the surface, it'll automatically take us there, and now we are currently working on that surface. You need to find a middle. You can go from the midpoints. You can create any lines you want on that surface, and you can extrude and change the surface with those lines fairly easy. Okay. The biggest issue is if you get into a very complex drawing and you don't keep up with these sketches on the side, over here when you're trying to model, you will have a hard time finding where that sketch was if you need to make a change on that sketch. So we'll call it cutout 1. Oh. Okay. So now let's talk about the revolve feature, because that's a handy one that everyone is using nowadays. Another thing, okay, so we now have a body because we 3D'd out a profile. We can turn our sketches off and you can see we have a body. So down here in the bodies, you've got a body. So if I wanted to come here and put another component on top of this component and make them into one component, how would I do that? So let me show you. So I'll come up here. I'm just going to make another rectangle. And it turned off on me. So I had to come over here and turn on the sketch that I'm working with. That's another thing. If you have all your sketches unlabeled, how are you going to know which sketch to turn on in order to make an adjustment or a change? So I sketched it out here. That says join, intersect, cut, or new body. I can call it a completely new body. And now it's giving me two separate bodies, right? Over here. Caps lock. So what I can do here is I can actually combine these bodies pretty easily by coming to combine, selecting both of them and pressing OK. Now I have one body. I can name that body test sample 1. Okay. And I can turn that body into a component if I want to. Okay, so that say you're working on an item that has a back plate, a front plate, side plates, all kinds of components that go in and outside of it, and you have all these individual drawings, and you're trying to work on the space. Well, you would want to, if you're not going to be working on this body anymore, you would want to create a component from the body. And now this is your component. I always unground from the parent myself because it will give you issues when you're moving. And now you have an actual component. It has bodies. You can export this, import this. You can have 10 of these items that make up one giant component and have them separated and export them individually as individual components as different file types, is whatever you'd need. Okay, guys, so if there's anything you guys want to learn, leave a comment and I will try to teach it. I'm going to try to get on here more and more and teach different features. Let's do the revolve feature before we get off. I can just turn all of this off. We'll start a new sketch from the top again. We're going to do it on this surface. This time we're going to make a round component. It's going to be, let's see, let's make it a 4-inch OD, which means that we're going to take whatever OD or whatever diameter and divide it by 2. So if we want a 4-inch round pipe going long ways, we're going to call this 2.0 because it's half a 4-inch. What else we can do though, another thing we can do though is we can go 4.0 divided by 2. Yeah, Fusion will do the math for you. Okay? and say we want a 1-inch ID, okay? Say 1.0 divided by 2 is going to give us a point. And we want this little round part to be 6 inches in length. This 1.0 I put here is the ID, so we're going to need a through hole here. We're going to finish connecting our box first. Once our box is connected, you can come in here with the trim feature. I just push T on the keyboard, but you can also come up here to find trim. It's the pair of scissors. So now I've just got this blue box here. So what I can do is I can revolve that component. Finish the sketch and revolve. And because our component has an inside hole, we'll have to revolve around the axis. So we need to make sure we can see the x-axis. So if this origin point is not coming up for you, you can turn it on right here. Okay. So our profile is going to be the box that's already selected. Our axis is going to be the x-axis. And look, we've got a new cylinder body. And now that you know how to work with 2D sketching, we can sketch on any of these surfaces to extrude, extract, union, cut, anything you want. Any design. If there's something you guys would like to see me draw on here to help people, let me know. If there's anything I can make a video on to help you guys on Fusion 360, please let me know. I've done a lot of drawings on here. I can also do some cam work, especially with mills and lace. We run a plasma cutter every day, so we do a lot of 2D cutting and a lot of 2D work. Thank you guys for watching.